What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So here we are, and guess what? We're back on the 06. Go figure, right? This thing's getting real close to being wrapped up, and yeah, we're getting pretty excited. So the fuel pump we've been waiting forever for, I got a notification saying it should be delivered Monday or Tuesday. So, you know, in the next day or two, that should be going. And we can drop that in the car, then we can fire it up, get it ready to tune. One of the things we need for the tune is a wideband gauge. So this tells you your air-fuel ratio, and it helps the tuner dial it in so that you get drivability and everything else. So you have a couple options. You either put one in temporarily, you do your tuning, you pull it back out, or like us, we're gonna put it in, leave it in, and we also went and got a boost gauge that we're gonna be wiring in. There's a company called VentPod, and they make a pretty cool product. In the Mustang, the AC vents are all circle, and what it does is it puts a circle gauge inside that AC vent, and your AC comes out around the outer diameter of that gauge. So you still can keep your air conditioning and everything flowing, but you don't have gauges, you know, all over. And that's another reason why we went with this autometer gauge. So the autometer gauge has a silver bezel and a silver background on the face of the gauge, and the dash in the 06 has like a silver inlay right through the middle. So I think these will blend in just perfectly with that. A lot of other companies have like white or black, which may work with your interior, but for what we have, I wanted silver. So first things first, car's up in the air. As you can see, we need to install the O2 sensor into the exhaust. And for us, there is a bung on the long tube header that we're going to be threading this into. And then all we're going to do is run a wire from the bottom of the car all the way up. And then I'm going to go in from the top of the engine bay. I think that's going to be the easiest for us. And I can run the boost gauge through the same spot. So yeah, let's go ahead, get this threaded in. I'll just shove it to the top of the motor, and then I'll bring you back and we can go over where exactly we're going through, why we're doing that, and you know, all the rest of the install. Let's get her done. Alright, so we went and got the wideband under the car in the bung. We ran the wire up into the engine bay, across all the way to the driver's side, and down where the harness comes through the firewall. So now it's over underneath the steering wheel, kind of by all the pedals, and we're going to run it up, and I want to get to these two vents right here. I went and got a vent pod, as you can see here. So you can see that it's like a little bezel that goes inside the factory AC vent, and it just, you snap the back factory AC stuff out, you snap this one in, and now your gauge will go in the center, and it still has an opening. If I put my hand back here, you can see. Still an opening, so all your AC and everything will come out. You just kind of lose directional control. So I thought, instead of doing the one on the left and the right of the steering wheel, so the driver has no like AC vents that can point to that person, I would do the two middle. That way the passenger still has one right here, the driver still has one on the far side. You can angle it yourself, and these two will just kind of blow through the middle of the car now. So one of them is going to be a boost gauge, the other is going to be the wideband. So I'll probably do the boost closest to the driver and the wideband next to the passenger, if you will. Just because the wideband kind of lights up and it'll show you with the different colors, green, red, yellow, everything, what range you're in, if you're where you need to be or not. And the boost gauge is just the gauge itself. So as you can see, there's that silver strip through the center of the dash, and what I wanted to do was get something that would match. So I got the old school autometer. These are ultralight gauges. and they're a silver bezel with a silver background, so I think it'll go well with the silver in the dash there. You can see there's like some of the panel, the radio and everything's out because I have a new one, and it'll just give me extra little bit of room to run up and get into those vents. So here we are, and what we're going to do is make sure that, like I said, we're going to run that wiring up underneath, zip tie it out of the way, and then we're going to get up into those vents and start to connect the backside of it. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so here we are in the engine bay, obviously, and we're trying to hook up the boost gauge. So in the gauge kit, it comes with this little T, and that's going to go to this fitting here with a compression furrow in it that's going to go to the plastic hose that I have here. Now the plastic hose I ran in just on this side here. It comes up beside the master cylinder, goes underneath, and I'm trying to find a spot that has vacuum and boost, so the gauge will read vacuum and boost, obviously. Now, I did take off this elbow. This is a Gen 1 VMP supercharger, so I pulled off the elbow here. It's just 4 bolts that go in the supercharger housing, and I was able to find this line here. Let me zoom in. So I was able to find this line here, and that goes from the third runner, or the third intake port on this side, up to the fuel pressure regulator right here. Now that's going to see that when the supercharger is not making any boost, and then once it hits boost, that will show boost pressure, which lets the fuel pressure raise, and that's what you need the fuel pressure to do when you have boost. The fuel pressure is going to go up 1 pound for every 1 pound of boost that the car has. So what we're going to do is cut that line. We're going to put the T in here in the middle. I'm going to connect the plastic line that goes from here through the dash and up to the gauge that you saw, and that's going to be our connection for there. Now, what I want to do is tilt this way down so the plastic line is actually going to come out underneath this fuel rail. Okay, so as you can see, we have that line here. I want to make the plastic line go underneath this fuel rail so we can try and hide it a little bit. So we'll zip tie it to the injectors. It'll come through and it'll hit this T here. That we're just going to cut that line and slip it in the middle. So it shouldn't be that bad of an install. And then what I can do is put the 4 bolts back in here, 4 bolts from the throttle body onto the throttle body adapter, and I can put the clean air tube back in and we're done. So it's not going to be that big of a deal. Just make sure that you do put some Teflon tape on these threads here, and you don't need any on this side obviously because it's that compression style fitting. So yeah, let's go ahead and get that done. All right, and just like that, we were able to finish the hose routing over to that boost and vacuum source. And also, we were able to get the wiring through the firewall back to the backside of our wideband gauge. Now, the instructions on autometer gauges are absolutely incredible. These guys have been doing it forever. So the wiring is pretty straightforward, and it tells you exactly how you need to hook it up. So we just followed that wiring, and we ran the power for the light on the wideband gauge over to the power on the boost gauge, and that's it. Now, we're about ready to fire this thing up and make sure that both of them do work. But yeah, I figured I'd talk to you a little bit and let you know where we're at. Let's spin the camera around, check out the gauges, and see if they do what they're supposed to do. All right, so here we are. As you can see in the vent, this is the wideband gauge here, and the air conditioning comes out around it. And then over here on the passenger side, we have our boost gauge, and the air conditioner comes out around it. So what should happen is when we go key on, we should get our lights to both of them. Let me grab the key here. All right. So key on. And there you go. We have our backlight here in this one. And the wideband is counting down